Wrestling wild cards. What you're about to witness will go down as the most shocking corporate decision in WWE history. Triple H just did something that nobody, and I mean nobody, thought he had the guts to do. He didn't just suspend Seth Rollins. He didn't just strip him of his title. He completely terminated the reigning World Heavyweight Champion from WWE. Forever. This isn't kayfabe, this isn't a storyline, and this isn't some publicity stunt. This is real corporate warfare that's been brewing for over a decade, and it just exploded in the most spectacular way possible. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this decision will change WWE forever and why absolutely no one, not even their biggest stars, is safe anymore. The WWE Universe is still reeling from what will become the benchmark against which every future disciplinary action in sports entertainment will be measured. In a single decisive stroke, Triple H, the Chief Content Officer, the King of Kings, the architect of modern WWE's creative direction, has done what many thought impossible. He terminated Seth Rollins while he was the reigning World Heavyweight Champion. This isn't just any roster member we're talking about. This is a man whose face is plastered across merchandise stands worldwide, whose entrance music still makes arenas erupt in unison, and whose name has been synonymous with main event glory for over a decade. This is not the kind of action you take lightly. This is not a snap judgment made in the heat of the moment. This is the culmination of years of tension, power struggles, personal betrayals, and a final unforgivable act that crossed every professional and moral boundary Triple H could tolerate. This decision will ripple far beyond WWE, reverberating into the very culture of professional wrestling itself. And I'm going to break down exactly how we got here, what this means for the future, and why this moment changes everything. To understand the magnitude of Triple H's decision, we need to go back to where this volatile relationship began, and it's a story that reads like a corporate thriller mixed with a Shakespearean tragedy. When Seth Rollins first stepped into WWE, he wasn't just another talented rookie looking for his big break. He was a walking contradiction, undeniably gifted but insufferably arrogant, technically brilliant but politically reckless. Triple H, even then a towering figure both in the ring and in the boardroom, found himself in the position of having to make a crucial decision about this young upstart. The talent was obvious. Rollins could dazzle crowds with aerial precision that defied physics, technical mastery that made veterans take notice, and a showman's flair that commanded attention. But alongside that brilliance came something far more dangerous, a streak of arrogance that bordered on insubordination, a defiance toward authority that made locker room politics toxic, and a belief that he was destined for greatness on his own terms, regardless of what management wanted. Here's where the story gets really interesting, and this is something Triple H has admitted publicly in interviews since then. He came dangerously close to firing Rollins during those early years. Not because of his in-ring performance, that was never in question, but because of his attitude. Triple H has gone on record saying he looked at the young Seth Rollins and saw nothing special beyond the attitude problem. Think about that for a moment. The man who would become a multiple-time world champion, a WrestleMania main eventer, and one of WWE's biggest draws was almost cut loose before his career even began because his ego was already writing checks his professionalism couldn't cash. But Triple H made a decision that would haunt him for the next decade. Instead of cutting ties, he decided to invest in Rollins, to mold him, to try to channel that raw ambition into something productive. It was a gamble that seemed to pay off spectacularly when Rollins became the crown jewel of the Authority storyline, flanked by Triple H and Stephanie McMahon like corporate royalty. During this period, Rollins held championships, main event pay-per-views, and enjoyed levels of protection and creative backing that most wrestlers could only dream of. But here's the critical mistake that Triple H admits he made. That period of unprecedented success planted a dangerous seed in Rollins' mind. It created a belief system that would eventually destroy their relationship and his WWE career. Rollins began to believe that he was above the rules, that the standard consequences for missteps didn't apply to him, that he wasn't just a part of the WWE system but essential to it. He developed what corporate psychologists call indispensability syndrome, the toxic belief that his value to the company made him immune to accountability. When the authority storyline eventually ended, Rollins found himself without that political safety net for the first time in years. And adjusting to that new reality? That's where everything started to fall apart, setting the stage for a decade-long power struggle that would end with the most shocking termination in WWE history. If you want to pinpoint the exact moment when Triple H decided that Seth Rollins had to go, it wasn't during a heated backstage argument or a creative disagreement. It was during what WWE insiders now call the SummerSlam Deception, a calculated act of corporate manipulation so audacious, so professionally destructive, that it left Triple H with no choice but to make the nuclear option his only option. Here's what the public saw. Seth Rollins was sidelined with a serious injury, ruled out of competition indefinitely. Fans were disappointed but sympathetic. WWE's creative team scrambled to adjust major storylines, promotional tours were canceled or restructured, and the company even provided special medical accommodations to aid in his recovery. This wasn't just a minor inconvenience, we're talking about reshuffling millions of dollars in production costs, disappointing sponsors who had paid for Rollins' appearances, and leaving storylines hanging that had been months in the making. Triple H himself, according to multiple sources within WWE, was genuinely concerned about Rollins' well-being. He defended him in internal meetings, pushed back against executives who wanted to strip him of opportunities, and personally emphasized the importance of prioritizing talent health over short-term creative needs. This is crucial to understand. Triple H wasn't just acting as a corporate executive here, he was acting as someone who still cared about Seth Rollins as a person, despite their professional tensions. But then came SummerSlam night, and everything exploded in the most spectacularly damaging way possible. The supposedly injured, supposedly unable to compete Seth Rollins shocked the arena by appearing unannounced, looking perfectly healthy, moving with zero limitations, to cash in his Money in the Bank contract and seize the championship in a moment designed to set social media on fire and generate maximum buzz. While 50,000 fans erupted in excitement and social media exploded with praise for the greatest surprise return ever, backstage the mood was drastically different. Because within hours, the truth began to emerge, and it was far worse than anyone could have imagined. Rollins hadn't just been cleared to compete, he had been training in secret for months, fully capable of wrestling at 100% capacity while deliberately feeding false injury updates to WWE's medical staff, corporate executives, and even Triple H himself. This wasn't an angle that had been cleared with corporate. This wasn't an agreed-upon storyline twist that everyone was in on. This was a calculated, unilateral act of deception that manipulated medical protocols, exploited corporate resources, and violated the trust of the very people who had been protecting his interests while he was supposedly injured. From an insurance standpoint alone, this created potential fraud implications that could have cost WWE millions in liability issues. But for Triple H, the betrayal went deeper than corporate policy violations. This was personal. For months, he had been defending Rollins in boardroom meetings, arguing for patience and accommodation, genuinely believing he was helping someone recover from a legitimate injury. To discover that it was all an elaborate lie designed to manipulate him and the entire company? That was the moment their relationship died forever, and Rollins' WWE career was sealed. What happened in the days following SummerSlam 2025 has become the stuff of backstage legend, a confrontation so explosive, so filled with years of pent-up frustration and betrayal, that WWE employees who witnessed it describe it as one of the most intense verbal battles in company history. This wasn't just a boss disciplining an employee or a creative disagreement getting heated. This was the complete destruction of a relationship that had defined both men's careers for over a decade. According to multiple sources who were present, the confrontation began when Triple H called Rollins into his office for what was supposed to be a routine post-event meeting. But the moment Rollins walked through that door, Years of buried grievances came pouring out like a dam bursting. Triple H didn't just address the SummerSlam Deception, he went all the way back to the beginning, laying out a decade's worth of incidents, policy violations, and disrespectful behavior that he had overlooked or minimized because of their history together. The medical deception wasn't an isolated incident, it was the final straw on a pattern of behavior that had been escalating for years. Triple H detailed how Rollins had consistently undermined booking decisions, made creative demands that threw entire production schedules into chaos, and developed a reputation for making life unnecessarily difficult for younger talent trying to establish themselves. He talked about the countless times he had defended Rollins in corporate meetings, the opportunities he had protected, the second chances he had provided, all while Rollins continued to push boundaries and test limits. But here's where the confrontation took a turn that made reconciliation impossible. Instead of showing any remorse, instead of acknowledging the severity of what he had done, Rollins doubled down. He reportedly defended his actions as good business, claiming that the surprise return had generated more buzz and revenue than any traditional storyline could have achieved. He accused WWE leadership of stifling his creativity, of not recognizing his true value to the company, and of being too rigid in their corporate thinking to appreciate innovative approaches to entertainment. This response revealed something that Triple H had been suspecting for years but had never fully accepted. Seth Rollins genuinely believed he was above the rules. He wasn't just pushing boundaries or testing limits, he fundamentally believed that his value to WWE made him immune to the same standards of professionalism and accountability that applied to everyone else on the roster. The confrontation escalated to the point where, according to witnesses, both men were shouting, with Rollins at one point telling Triple H that he had lost touch with what makes this business exciting and Triple H responding that Rollins had lost touch with what makes this business professional. The meeting ended with Triple H making it clear that their working relationship was over and Rollins storming out, reportedly telling colleagues that Triple H was jealous of his success and trying to hold him back. That night, Triple H made the decision that would shock the wrestling world. Seth Rollins had to go, and it had to be permanent. The announcement came down with the cold precision of a corporate press release, but its impact hit the wrestling world like a seismic event that registered on every level of the industry. WWE has terminated the contract of Seth Rollins, effective immediately, due to a consistent pattern of policy violations, insubordination, and fundamental breach of trust. 26 words that ended a decade-long career and sent shockwaves through an industry that had never seen anything quite like this before. This wasn't a suspension that could be reversed with an apology. This wasn't a storyline firing that would be undone in a few weeks for dramatic effect. This was a permanent, legally binding termination with cause, backed by months of documented evidence, witness statements, and a paper trail that made any potential wrongful termination lawsuit virtually impossible. WWE's legal team had been building this case for months, anticipating that this moment might eventually come. The immediate reaction within WWE was as polarizing as it was intense. Younger stars, particularly those who had struggled to get opportunities while dealing with Rollins' backstage politics, saw the move as a signal that the new era under Triple H's leadership would not tolerate the toxic behavior that had plagued the company for years. Veterans who had watched Rollins' attitude deteriorate over time acknowledged that he had crossed lines that simply couldn't be ignored, regardless of his talent or drawing power. But the business implications were staggering. WWE was suddenly faced with a vacant world championship in the middle of major storylines, forcing creative teams to completely restructure months of planned content. The merchandise department had to pull thousands of dollars worth of Seth Rollins products from stores and online platforms. International promotional tours had to be reconfigured, sponsor commitments had to be renegotiated, and the company had to absorb the immediate financial hit of losing one of their biggest draws. Industry analysts were divided on whether Triple H had made a brilliant long-term decision or a costly short-term mistake. Some praised the move as a necessary stand for corporate integrity, arguing that allowing toxic behavior to continue unchecked would have eventually poisoned the entire locker room culture. Others warned that the loss of Rollins' star power, merchandise sales, and international appeal could cost WWE millions in revenue and potentially damage their competitive position against rival promotions. From a legal standpoint, the termination was airtight. The company had documented every policy violation, every instance of insubordination, every breach of trust that had led to this moment. Medical reports confirmed the deception, internal correspondence proved the pattern of problematic behavior, and witness statements from multiple employees supported the company's position. WWE was protected from any potential legal challenges. But perhaps the most significant aspect of this decision was what it represented culturally. For decades, the unwritten rule in professional wrestling had been that top stars, especially world champions, were essentially untouchable. Their drawing power and star status made them immune to the same consequences that might befall lesser talents. Triple H had just shattered that perception completely, establishing a new precedent that would reshape how every performer in the company viewed their relationship with management. What we've witnessed here isn't just the end of Seth Rollins' WWE career, it's the beginning of a new era in professional wrestling where talent without professionalism is worthless, where star power without respect for the business is meaningless, and where absolutely no one is too valuable to be held accountable for their actions. Triple H has sent a message that will echo through WWE locker rooms for years to come. The rules apply to everyone. If a reigning world heavyweight champion, a global merchandise powerhouse, or WrestleMania main eventer can be terminated for crossing the line, then truly no one is untouchable. This decision will be studied in business schools as an example of corporate leadership under pressure. It will be debated in wrestling forums as either the best or worst executive decision in WWE history. But one thing is absolutely certain, it has changed the culture of WWE forever. For Triple H, this was the ultimate test of leadership, choosing long-term integrity over short-term profits, choosing corporate culture over personal relationships, choosing to do what was right over what was easy. For Seth Rollins, it's a cautionary tale of how unchecked ego and disrespect for authority can destroy even the most promising careers in an instant. And for every wrestler watching this unfold, the message is crystal clear. Respect the business, respect the system, and respect the people who make it all possible. Because in WWE under Triple H's watch, your talent might get you to the top, but your character determines whether you stay there. What do you think about Triple H's decision? Was he right to terminate Seth Rollins despite the massive business implications, or should star power trump corporate policy? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one, and I'm genuinely curious to hear your take on this unprecedented situation. And if you want to stay updated on all the fallout from this decision and how it reshapes WWE going forward, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. This story is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens next in this corporate wrestling drama.